Got it. Welcome to episode 8 of Behind the Glass, sponsored by Never Made a Pro Stock and the Center Ice Foundation, Central Ohio. Still can't. Never going to let that go. We'll be in episode 80, and I'll still say that. They were supposed to drop the Central Ohio, Patty. I'm Chad Kuvo, joined here, as usual, with my little brother, Vinny Kuvo, and my other brother, sort of. I don't like him that much. I do. I don't. Adam Kiefer. And then we're also joined today by Mr. Patrick Bedell from One Vision Sports and Entertainment, somebody close to me and close to my family. And we'll get started. We'll just get started how we get started with everybody, Patty, and we'll go with how'd you get into hockey? And I know some of these answers, so I'm going to try not to project the knowing these.
That's all right. That's all right. So, the first answer to this question is it's pretty going far back here. My first experience with hockey was I was 6 months old, and my uncle brought me to a Islanders game. And apparently I liked it a lot then because I wasn't crying, and this was the only time that I really could just chill. So they would just keep bringing me to Islander games. And then wow. I kept going. Yeah, throughout my entire childhood. So that's how it started. It was basically because it was the only place that I was. Because
you were a good kid at Islanders games. That's interesting. Do you play now? You played some youth hockey, right? Too.
I played hockey. I played and obviously high school. I was never anywhere above the kind of let's just do it for fun mentality. But I was above the house league.
And you were a goalie. You were a goalie too, right?
I'm 5'8".
Yeah, but there's something not there. That automatically makes me think there might be something wrong with you a little bit. That scares me something when you.
There's definitely something wrong with me. There's no way around that. I hope you know me well enough to be able to say that there is something wrong.
Same. We're all that way. Yeah. Oh crap! Well, that was the quickest "how'd you get into hockey" answer I think I've ever had. But I'm just kidding about it. But it kind of
keep going.
It kind of rolls you into. That story kind of leads you into what made you want to become a sports agent. And so why don't you tell us how that kind of all morphed into that and how One Vision became to be, kind of your story.
So thing I wanted to do was obviously play in the NHL. Tommy Salo was my guy. I was 4 years old. And then I liked Zdeno Chara when he was with the Islanders the first time. So those were my two guys, Tommy Salo and Zdeno Chara. Anyway, I kept playing. And at around 8 or 9, I realized I was enough into the game to know that I'm not projecting well height-wise. This is not looking good.
And you knew, the crazy part is I'll never forget you telling me the whole story about that. And you knew at 9 or 10 that you were I don't think this is going to work out for me that way.
At probably around 7 or 8. Because I remember being in school and they used to ask you, what do you want to do when you get older? And I remember the year, and I came home, it was a whole big thing. At least in my mind it was. I came home and I told my parents, guys, this isn't looking good. I think this year I'm gonna have to say not play in the NHL, and I remember deciding that it was gonna be a GM. This was a big deal for me. Yeah. That what I was about to go and say was gonna have some determination on where the universe would bring me.
But it sort of has.
It sort of has, but unfortunately, if I kept going with the route I was on, it wouldn't matter how many times I wanted to say I'm going to play in the NHL. It wasn't going to happen. So yeah, I did the GM. So the next year when I was 8 or 9, that was when I started studying the NHL CBA. I started kind of looking into transactions and understanding, the draft rules, rights retention after a player's drafted, how long.
How old were you?
3rd grade, 4th grade.
Still don't know any of those things.
It was really something that I found enjoyment out of. I enjoyed understanding what I was seeing. So I did that, and then when I was I took this scouting class when I was in 6th grade, and I kind of realized this is too impersonal. And a few years went by before I actually took that step. But when I was about 16 or 17, I got to know a few Russian hockey players who were with the Islanders organization. And they live right by me. And I remember one time one of the guys was sitting in the hotel room, and he was talking to his agent about something. And he was like, "Patty, listen in, just listen in." And I was like, I don't want to intrude, but he was like, "No, I know you want to be involved in this, just listen in." So I listened in, and from then on, he would have me listen in to his conversation. And I'm 16, he's 19, he's drafted in the show, like all this stuff. So I'm listening in the conversation. And then, I got into scouting, and I had this background of being able to listen to people's conversations with their agents, and know them and understand what was going on. And then when I got the opportunity to start working for an agency, I felt like I was ready for it. And there was some steps, because my whole process had been learning CBAs, learning stuff about how on the big stage, everything works. I had to learn how the early stages work, the amateur hockey, finding junior. I knew from junior hockey out, I needed to learn from junior hockey in. So that was really the big journey that I had to take. But yeah, I mean, long story short, a lot of different things led me to Open One Vision, and that's a whole different story. If you want to hear me blabber for another.
No, go ahead. Yeah, I look. Kiefer put his head up. Went, yeah, absolutely.
Okay, all right.
I think it's important. I think it's really cool. It's
all right.
I'm gonna before you go there, I just want to just emphasize, like, a lot of what we're trying to do with this podcast is to like untangle the web of all the different possible paths you can go in the game. And everyone probably starts off with, I want to go to the NHL, but let's be realistic. That's not a realistic goal for 99% of us. And finding that path is really interesting. So I go at it, buddy.
So that's a good place to start, is where so I had been kind of giving a more specific, detailed guideline, or step-by-step of where I was at. I had been working for a junior team, and this, I hope, young people that want to work in hockey would hear things like this and realize that just reach out to anybody. Like I reached out to a guy named Ron Kinnear, who worked for the PAL Junior Islanders, and it was because I realized I didn't want to pledge some fraternity when I was 18. And, I was like, I need to work in hockey, and why not just do this instead of party with them?
Yeah.
So I found this junior team. I started working with them. 3 years later, another good friend of mine that I met there, his name was Pete Judge, one of my closest friends in hockey. He introduced
shout out to Pete, he's Guelph, right?
Yes.
Pete's a Guelph scout.
He's a Guelph scout, and he's an absolute beauty.
Maybe we'll chase him down and try and get him on the show too. See, that's where
100%. I'll help you with that.
Yeah, I love that.
He's a really, really good human being. He was like a mentor to me, but he introduced me to someone named John, who opened his own agency, and I was there for 3 years. And through that, I kind of just saw the way that I wanted to be an agent. It's like you're going to school to be a teacher, right? You shadow a teacher, and you see the way that they're approaching their students, and you pick things up, but you have your own teaching style. That's sort of the way that I looked at agenting. Every agent has their own style and their own way of going about things. And I took just basically from being friends. Like, it's so weird how my life and hockey is intertwined. How did I meet a bunch of Russian NHL?
How did you? I mean, I almost wanted to stop you.
You skipped over. I was at a draft. You skipped over how you were chilling in a hotel room with them in the first place.
Yeah. So I mean, but it's very odd. Like, I got to know them because I was at a draft party when I was 15 or 16. So right after they got drafted, the draft after, I was at a draft party, and he was like, "Long Island's boring," and I'm like, "No, it's not." And he's like, "Yes, it is." And then next thing you know, I was like hanging out with them, and I learned a lot, and they were good people. And I think for some reason, then a few years later, like the way I got to know another bunch of pro hockey players was being at just the right place, right time, meeting a bunch of, guys that are in the all like big name people who, when I was meeting them, I was not a big name person. I'm not a big name person now, but I was not successful, and they, were not big name people, and we just clicked. So it's been weird how my life has sort of like led me to these places where I meet this person or I meet that person, and I create very close bonds.
It's kind of the same thing we say, Patty, about like on the other show that you were on. It's the connections. I mean, it's kind of funny to say that, but it's the connections you make through all those people. Just randomly, the things that you don't even think are going to matter can be the biggest part of the whole world.
I love, Patty, at the beginning of it, you said, to anyone listening who wants to get into hockey or anything like that, like just reach out to anyone. And I love that you said that, because I mean, Never Made It Pro Stock was founded on us just literally reaching out to anyone and everyone we could. And that's how we have become what we are now. So, I mean, I
don't know what we are, but hey. Yeah.
Hey, but you are.
We're okay.
Yeah.
Like that's what you guys do is exactly the way that everyone should and does, unless you played in the show, or unless your dad or cousin or somebody played in the show. You have to start like that. You have to, like, I have kids. I have this kid that reached out to me. I have a bunch of kids that I try and take every call of kids that reach out and want like career advice. And there's this one kid who reached out and was like, I just want an internship. And like I said, just write up a scouting report for me. Just do something. Like, and I'll see if we can work you in.
Yeah.
This big like it was a work in progress, but he did this big video. It took all this time, and I was like, bro, you just earned my time. Like I'm now, every week I'm going to give you 20 minutes and we're going to have a conversation. And that's what we've done. Like if you take the time to go out and reach out to strangers, you don't know what's going to happen.
You ain't kidding.
You're so right.
The part that amazes me is when you went to work for Ron, you essentially went there as an intern social media manager, right? I mean, that's really what you went to.
There was no money. There was no job description. I went in and I did color commentating. I
would love to dig that up.
You can find it there.
I'm gonna.
Hockey TV used to use, like, one of their opening scenes was this junior Islanders goalie that was making this amazing save. And I remember calling that, like, I wasn't the one calling it because I was always getting distracted. But like, I was like, I remember Pete always had to rein me in, because I'd be like seeing a save like that and like dropping like, holy yes, like.
That's fantastic. I love it. Now, keep going with kind of maybe what you guys do now as one vision. Yeah, it's not just hockey, and you do a lot of stuff. I know you have a lot of baseball and you have entertainment too, right?
So I mean, generally our group now has taken a hockey and baseball approach. We started out we had singers and artists. I manage an artist on my own. I work in NFTs. I do, some random
How do you
things.
not have any good NFT advice then? Like,
how do you have good NFT advice? It's a monkey, a bunch of apes.
Yeah, Bored Ape Yacht Club. Why didn't you tell
so my
me?
advice is to go find the next Bored Ape Yacht Club. I can't help
Come on, Patty.
If I could do that, if I could give you advice on that, I would be on this podcast, but I'd be in like Bermuda or some nice place. Bermuda, I don't know if that's a nice place. Some nice place.
I got. So I think one of the things, what's the difference in the, and you don't have to take a big answer, but one of the things that always gets me is, what's the difference in baseball and hockey? I mean, they're completely different paths, right? I mean,
so I'll be honest, I'm a hockey guy. Like I studied baseball. I know the rules of baseball, the contract side, the negotiating, but there's a reason why I happen to find hockey players throughout my life and become best friends with them.
Yeah.
Just because we have the same interests, and I'm a hockey guy. So the differences between the people, one are hockey people and one aren't. It like that's the difference. There's some great people on the baseball side that I've gotten to know very well, but the ones that I got to know the best were guys that I sort of felt like were hockey guys.
That's kind of
even without being hockey, it's the mentality.
Of course.
I mean, at the end of the day, it's connections. You know, we talked about it on the other time that we did this project or this show. Connections is everything. All life is connection. I don't care what sport it is. I don't care what job it is. I don't care what future it is, what past it is. If you can create connections and build off it, and I mean, how do you think I don't know a damn thing about art. I literally knew nothing. It was a girl that reached out saying she needed help with business and contracts, and I was like, you know what? If you take the time to practice and learn and grow and build professionally, then the least I can do is take the time to practice and learn and grow the art side.
Yeah.
So with 2 years later now, she moved to New York, and we have these business meetings like every week. Like that's what I love. I love being able to positively impact other people's careers because it's dreams. You know, we talk about Logan all the time. Like this is his dream. I get to be a part of his dream. Yeah. And that's being what my company does. We named it One Vision, you know, and obviously names are stupid and they have different meanings and whatever.
I don't know if they're stupid.
No, but you get what I'm saying.
I know what you
like
mean.
One Vision for me is meaningful because I truly look at it like whatever my client's vision is in life, not just hockey or anything, whatever their vision is, that becomes our vision. That becomes my vision. We're one vision. We have one vision.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's trying to, as we grow, keep, you know, scaling, but be able to provide enough time for everybody.
It's got to be tough.
It's tough, but if you love what you're doing, you can find the time to do it.
You're right.
So I imagine when people are coming to you, their vision is, you know, for the stars. So I guess whatever, if it's baseball or if it's art, they want to get to the highest possible place. I guess how do you like kind of level set their expectations when that's maybe not the most obtainable goal, but perhaps there's another path that might be good for them? That has to be some difficult conversation sometimes.
I don't know if it's necessarily difficult. Because if I've been on the phone with people where someone says something outrageous and like about their goal, like they are so out of the realm of where reality is, and I'll be honest with them immediately. You know, maybe this isn't what the next step is, but that doesn't mean you can't get to the highest level. And normally, the minute they hear that honesty, from my experience, then they don't want to hear that. So the people that I've working with are the people that are centered in reality. Because if you aren't, you would have heard what I tell you immediately and been like, well, this guy doesn't think that tomorrow I'm going to get drafted first overall.
And you'd be like,
yeah. I've heard some outlandish things. Like one parent says, and I would never ever say who it was, but one parent of a player says, he's just like Zegras. This was 2 years ago, like a year ago. He's just like Zegras, but no one's seen him. And I'm like, he's 18. He's 18. Like I said it. He's 18. If he's Zegras,
it's tough, man. As a parent, it can be really tough, and that's a whole other side of it because you invest so much in it. You know what I mean? It's tough. It's hard.
I know,
awful. But that's like completely unreal.
Like I want people to aim for the stars.
Yeah,
I want them to, but
realistically,
like it's the same thing. If right now I'm 27, if I say right now, guys, you know what? I give up being an agent. I want to get signed by the New York Rangers and be their starting goalie next week. You'd say, what are you talking about, Pat?
I'd probably hang up on you, actually.
Yeah. Like, like you'd be very confused. It would be based in nothing. It's why when I was 8 years old, I said, hey, you know what? Maybe I'm not going to play in the show. Like, so I think there's a difference between having goals and dreams and being delusional.
Yeah.
And being honest with and upfront with yourself.
Oh, yeah. And like, that's one of my things. I will never lie to a client. I am very honest. I'll say, if you're messing up, I'm going to say,
Yeah.
pull it together. If I think that you're working hard, then I'm going to tell you you're working hard. If I think that, hey, this year you might not get drafted, then hey, this year you might not get drafted.
It just is what it is, right?
It is what it is. Like, no one can change the situations you're in. What you can change is how you prepare for next year's situations, the year after that, and the year after that. How you
really what that is what controlling your reaction to it, right? I mean, essentially, you're preparing to control your reaction to what.
Exactly. Exactly.
So speaking of your clients, I guess we could transition into probably your most high profile.
I just want to note one thing that was kind of subject of all of this and talking about Patty was I have never seen a human watch a hockey game, like a full game, as quick and know where to cut like a video out of something that happened good he watched it like 15 times. He watches hockey games, like speed. And you're like,
well, because I've got so many, it's very hard. Like I said, I have so many people I have to talk to. I've already had 3 calls during our conversation. Like, and so there's all these things going on. So when I watch games, I have to watch them fast. But the problem is sometimes you have to try and grasp it.
It's still, I mean, but it's still super impressive. Like, like, how do you cut the video that quick? He's like, I watch it at like 10 speed. I'm like, what?
Instat saves me now, though. I love Instat the most.
Yeah, when they do it right, that's a whole nother thing. I'd love to find like the actual U.S. representation of those people and talk to them because they have a heck of a thing. I mean, it's. Really
I don't know how they do it. I don't understand it.
It's got to be like a room full of people just plugging, like watching hockey games. Is my assumption. I don't know how else you could do it.
Or room full of scorekeepers.
Yeah, I feel like it's like, I don't know. It's weird.
Kiefer, do you know what that is? Instat? Have you ever heard of it?
Yeah, I've heard of it. Don't use it.
Yeah, so Gilmore has it too. Most of them do, and it literally keeps like every stat. But this year, like it's been wrong a lot, which is pretty interesting. I'm thinking they're hiring blind people to do it now. It's been strange. But yeah, I'm sorry, Ben. I want you to move on to the next question, but I just wanted to mention the fact that I've never seen anybody watch it. He probably watched the whole series of Lost in like 45 minutes.
That's TV though, doesn't count. I can't do it.
But yeah, so ahead, we were talking about clients of yours, so I guess we could move on to your most high profile one, I guess you could say, at least the one that we know about, which would be Josh Ho-Sang. He's been with you for a few years, so I guess how did you get involved with that? Tell us your experience with him and how it's been so far.
Sure. So another one of those little interesting stories where I met him actually around Hofstra years ago, like way before I became his agent. I met him and a few other guys.
I feel like you might have been a stalker. I'm getting the
I met these places. I don't understand. Like this was a small get together at Hofstra when like I was there and my friend Shannon was like, "Oh, are you coming over?" And then she's like, "Yeah, I invited some people over," and I was like, "What people? What do you?" She's like, "You have to come." So I was like, "All right, I'll come." And then
that's crazy.
Found my best friend like that. It's a very interesting because I didn't want to go. I remember it distinctly.
So do you have no problem just walking up and talking to him like normal person, like no nervousness, like at that time? Or
well,
you know what I mean?
Where was he? May I ask where was Josh at that point? Like, so you go to this party or to this get together?
7 beers deep.
It was literally like completely just like a normal get together. Met him, and it was the same way with everything. Like you meet interesting people and you just kind of hit it off.
It's awesome.
I'm asking, what was he playing juniors then? Like, how was he? What was
he was in juniors?
He was in that area.
And everyone was. It was right before training camp.
Uh,
A bunch of the guys were there, and I remember I just hit it off with them. Um,
it's awesome.
Years went by, and I got to know a few of the guys more, and Josh being one of them. And just became really good friends and helped him through a lot of things. While I was doing my own life stuff, like going to law school, and he actually one time showed up to law school with me. I brought him to law school for one class. We came up with this whole story that he had broken his car, and I had to tell. I have the email. I emailed the teacher, and I was like, my friend needs to come to class, and he showed up to class, and people in class recognized who he was, and so that was a whole ordeal. But long story short, I got to be really, really close with him, and his career wasn't going well. And I remember, I was at the point where in my career, like I felt good, and I was like kind of talking about what I was doing and some of my players. And I remember him saying to me, he was held out, and I was helping him like move because the group he was with, like everything was just going on really fast, and he was just asking me for advice. And next thing you know, he asked me to be his agent, and which was, I mean, it's an honor type thing.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah, for sure.
I think the reason why I ended up being close to people like in these situations is like, I don't know, I feel like a lot of times athletes and people of all different backgrounds, they're not treated like humans. And like, imagine every time you've met somebody that does something, because you meet across people, whether they're celebrities or they're TV people or athletes or whatever, you come across them.
Yeah.
I just feel like my big thing has always been like I want to actually listen to people. So like I'd meet these people and I'd treat them like another or any other human, and I felt like that's always resonated. But anyway, with this particular situation, I became his agent, um, and you know
When was that,
it
Pat?
was
How long ago was that now?
so it was I know we're going to talk, but it was right before so 2018 to 2019.
Gotcha.
The he was sitting out half the year with the Islanders. They told him to go home, and I became his agent halfway through. And I remember the first thing we did was that he was going to come back to Bridgeport. He was coming back to Bridgeport. He was going to come back to Bridgeport, and that's when he was like, "Pat, I want you to be my agent." So then I became his agent, and he was in Bridgeport for a few weeks, and then he went to San Antonio, which was the Blues AHL affiliate. Um, then the pandemic hit, and for him, he ended up going to the whole big thing. And I'll talk about like some of the things that I've done. But Josh's has been my journey too. Like being someone, I think he was sort of poo-pooed in the hockey world.
Mhm.
People made fun of what he went through, and people didn't understand what he went through or who he was or devalued him or whatever. And I feel like I've been in the same shoes with him. Like I became his agent. I felt like people were like, justifiably so, like they didn't know who I was. Um, People were like, "What is this guy? Who is he? What is
Yeah.
he doing?" And every step of that journey, I've had a chip on my shoulder, and I think he has had a chip on his shoulder as well.
It's
He's a
it's
hell of a
pretty
player.
awesome.
I mean, he's fun to
Yeah,
watch.
it's amazing to watch him now, especially I know how much headache and everything you went through when he was overseas, and then when you went to actually get him and bring him home and all that that
Well,
adventure.
that so he went overseas, and it was challenging, I think, for him, having not really played a full season or any hockey
Yeah.
for a while. And then he went over to Sweden, and they were in the middle of the season. but it all came about because, you know, the Islanders, we had a great time with the Islanders. They were very nice. When I became his agent, from then on, I have nothing but good things to say about Chris and Lou Lamoriello. They're incredible people. They run their organization in the way that they see best, and I respect that. For Josh, I think he needed a fresh start. I think anybody would admit that. That was my objective, was to get him a fresh start without being a problem for the Islanders. And I think we did very, very well when you consider all those factors. We were strategic. My CBA knowledge came in handy.
Has it changed since you were 9 or no?
This particular part didn't really, but I knew that Josh had not met the required games to be an RFA in this situation because he was 25 years old. The next year, this was last year, and I knew that arbitration, you know, most likely I always put myself in the team's shoes. So I put myself in their shoes, and I was like, what would I want to do if I owned Josh Ho-Sang's rights? What I would want to do is I'd want to own his rights, keep his rights, and have him go play overseas while he's unsigned. Hopefully tears it up, and then I can use him as a trade piece or bring him back. So I knew that would be something that I stay, you know, they don't tell you what they were doing things for, but I felt like that was why they qualified him. And I didn't know if we would get an offer that would be worth us signing had we not gone to arbitration. So by going to arbitration, which was scary, that was a scary thing. My first move as a 25-year-old agent was filing for arbitration against my childhood team, and the most longest tenured general manager in hockey history.
That sounds awful.
Lou Lamoriello, and you know, I remember like it just was a very interesting situation. But I remember being like, this is the thing that I am prepared for. I've been prepared for it my entire life. And you know, one of the guys at the PA that that I got to know very well through the process, I remember said to me that he said, you effing killed this. And I will never forget, like, because I was like, that was a cool experience to be able to, we came out even. This was the contract that he deserved, but I was able to support his interests as effectively as I think anybody else in this business could have. Which was a great experience, and it worked out perfectly. You think about it, he came back. We knew he went to Sweden, yes, but there was a pandemic.
Yeah, it was a mess.
Had he been getting a fresh start last year, it would have been a weird year to have a fresh start. So we did all this thing, and then we got out when we wanted to, as according to plan, instead of him having his rights being held for years. And now he's in Toronto, and we'll see the next step of the journey.
Well, that's what my next question was, what's the next step for him there? Like, as he tries to make it back to the show, like, what is that?
Well,
is he playing for the Marlies right now?
Yeah, he's at the Marlies.
Okay, cool.
I would love to see him at the Olympics. If that happens, see him at the Olympics. If he goes to the Olympics, I see no reason why he wouldn't go there and show how successful he can be, and impactful he can be on that type of stage. So if he does that, I would hope he gets a contract soon after in the NHL. But if he doesn't, he doesn't.
Because what is it, Patty? What kind of contract is he on that he's not on? He's not on a two-way, right? I don't really say that's about as much as I know.
He's on an AHL contract.
So he can't even go up, right?
But it's a very easy thing. Like, realistically, you're not going to ask for above NHL minimum.
Yes.
On your NHL salary in this situation. Sure. For a player like him, the situation he's in, you normally won't. Yeah. Who knows? You know, if Josh goes to the Olympics and has 5 teams that want him, you know, and we're 3 are offering a one-way, who knows? Yeah. But the likeliest approach would not be that. Now, I think so. In there's NHL contracts. You've got one-way contracts, which means that your salary at the NHL level is the same as the salary in the AHL level. It has no impact on waivers. It has no impact on your ability to go up and down. Games played and experience is a determining factor on waivers and stuff like that. Then its two-way contract is an NHL standard player contract, same thing, except it has a different rate of pay between the NHL and the AHL. So that would more likely than not be what would happen, is that he would get something called, you could either flip it and have just the NHL salary or an NHL portion added to the contract, or you could renegotiate the American League salary, which he's had a great season.
Yeah.
So, you never know.
Playing really well.
But there's a lot of different steps in this. Will all be dependent on, what happens over this next little while. But at the end of the day, this is about turning around his career, and I think he's done that. He's changed the narrative. He's changed the story.
How old is Josh?
20. He's what day is today? 4 days. He's turning 26.
Okay. So he's in his prime, really. I mean,
He's younger than I am.
Yeah.
He's younger than I am too. So.
He's definitely younger than Kiefer and I.
Yep.
In case anyone
He'd
was
be the
wondering.
youngest amongst us all. But
Yeah.
he's got years of hockey in front of him. I think he could play in the NHL this year. I think he definitely could play in the NHL next year. Everything's kind of where it is, but at the end of the day, I don't think it's even important. Like, if he gets to the NHL, amazing, but this is, I think, something deeper, in the sense that, he's having fun playing hockey again.
Yeah.
And I think,
That's what's most important.
it's the most important thing. He's getting paid enough to be happy, and he's doing the thing that he loves most while getting paid for it. Like, can't complain.
That's a good life. So I've got a lot there I want to react to, and I didn't want to stop you because you're on a great roll. So I kind of want to go back to the whole arbitration. So
sure.
All the stories that we hear, in the general public about it is probably a situation where it's, I don't know, like traditional positional bargaining, right? You've got the team with their assets and they want to get your player for the lowest possible price, and you want the highest possible price. So the fact that you landed right where you ought to be, like, does that happen often or not?
I mean, I think it does. What was interesting here was, like I said, and I would not want to, me putting myself in their shoes, I don't think it made the most sense for them to try and retain him. I think they wanted to hold his rights without necessarily having him in the organization.
Without paying him.
It's no risk.
Without
that,
paying
right?
him. But you saw that almost by the fact that then he was sent to Sweden and things like that. Which is, again, nothing wrong with them. This is good asset management. But we wanted the clock to keep ticking on his contract timeline, and we wanted him to be a UFA. So I going in to get more than he was worth. I was going in to simply get a 1-year contract that would bring him to unrestricted free agency.
Right.
So I went in, and I think Josh is such an interesting player because at that point in his career, he had missed half a season with a trade request. He had played in a few games at Bridgeport, a few games in San Antonio. The narrative about him was that he's trouble, all this. And then when you got down to the nitty gritty, people have all these preconceived notions, but when you start to look at the numbers, you're like, damn, this player is pretty good. He's done really well in the NHL. He's done really well.
It's breaking that stereotype. That's the biggest part, is breaking through just the front of it, right?
When we got to that contract negotiation, and I needed to try and create leverage because I didn't feel like we had any. So by going to arbitration, we had a set date that they knew would be the date that we'd have to bring it to the table. As the days went by, I felt stronger and stronger about our case. I had a good feeling, knowing our numbers, knowing where we were at, that I was in a position to be able to ask for a decent number. But as I built the case and contracts kept coming in, it got stronger and stronger from where we were asking, and ultimately we settled a day before our arbitration case, which was the ideal thing because you don't want to go to arbitration, as some players have experienced. If in an ideal world, you're able to squeeze it out of them without bringing it to the arbitration, the actual arbitration. So we were able to do that ultimately because I think that was what was fair. And as the days went by, our numbers kept getting stronger.
So for those of us that'll never get inside of that arbitration room, like what generally how does that work? Is it like one side comes up, pleads their case, then the team pleads their case, and is that how it goes?
So there's a whole procedure. So we settled the day before arbitration. But we had built our case, and I had gone through the whole process with the NHLPA, who were amazing with it. I have not dealt with the whole NHLPA, but the part that deals with the contracts, the salary cap, the marketplace. There's one guy, his name is Roland Lee. I believe his last name is Lee, but his first name is Roland. He was amazing through the process. And we worked together every day. We'd send back and forth notes, and we would build our case, and bring in like interns, which is so interesting because most of the interns were around my age at that point. But bring in like interns and people to be kind of like helping. And then we have this individual who was with the MLBPA, who helped the MLB do some of their arbitration cases because they have a lot more arbitration cases with their structure. So it was basically just building this entire case and this entire structure, approach, plan, and how it would have been. I forget the exact procedure, but either us or the team would make their case, and we do rebuttals. Both would make our opening arguments, then we do rebuttals, and then a few more rounds of that.
That's cool. I think a lot of people are interested in that process, and thanks for taking us behind the glass on that one. Another thing I wanted to kind of talk about.
Fancy keeper.
Yeah, you like that?
Yeah.
I'm tying it into the name.
Wow.
I'm learning. No, I wanted to talk about so with Josh's experience, at the pro level, you're an asset. You're not a human being, right? Like, and that's your job to transcend that and humanize him. But what about that? Does that experience exist for people in high school hockey, junior hockey, travel hockey, when you get pigeonholed, right? Based, whether true or not, right? People have a perception of you. And at some point in time, you're not getting to where you want to be, and you have to reinvent yourself. And I was wondering if you could just kind of comment on how Josh has kind of reinvented himself and what that process was like for him. So maybe some of our younger fans out there, all hundreds of them,
all three
can break that cycle and still achieve their goals.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think this is something that, in the humanization of a player, I think it's tough because I think there's so many people in hockey that do view players as people, but it's the reason why I didn't want to work on this side of it, because if you look at them too much as people and you make too many emotional decisions, there's no way you can be successful as a general manager. There's no way you can be successful as a coach. So that will never be fully eradicated. You have to look at them a little bit like pieces of meat. If you're a coach, if you're a GM, at every step of the journey for Josh, reinventing himself, I think people misconstrue his background. He was never, and I've said this to people in organizations that he's been in that you would think would not think this way about him, but everybody agrees. Never has done a thing in his career, never has done a thing that was malicious. Everybody agrees with me. He's never done a thing. No problems with any sort of malice act where he was acting with a bad intention. It was always mistakes. It was always maturity. And I think the way you change that is you work to become more mature. But it doesn't have to happen at the the same line. I guarantee you there are people that you would think are the most mature or are mature that are in pro sports, that are in around, you know, people that have high status in our society that are not mature. If some know how to hide it, some know how to handle it, others don't, and others need time to be able to figure it out. Josh was someone that needed to learn how to figure it out. He needed to learn how to be a pro, be an adult. Nothing wrong about that.
Patty, I think where I saw that was with his one of the first interviews he came back to back at the Marlies and at the Maple Leafs. I mean, he was so down to earth, and the funny part was I don't know if I feel like maybe he kind of avoided talking through all of that, and being real about it. And that was like the first time I felt like it kind of looked like the weight just kind of went off his shoulders. And he was like, this is just me. Like,
I wanted to say, if you look him up on YouTube, if you look up Josh Ho-Sang on YouTube, there is Don Cherry on Josh Ho-Sang. He was more talented than McDavid, is what he said.
Yeah.
I mean, and I remember watching him when he broke into the NHL. It was crazy. He was so good. So I'm so excited to see what is.
Go watch his highlights from this year. He's done some ridiculous stuff. A goal like 3 nights ago or something like that, where he did a toe drag. I don't even know how he got through the defenseman, and then he made it was an assist, but it was ridiculous.
He's been doing some great things, and you know, is he going to be better than McDavid? Is he better than McDavid? No. But I don't think he needs to be. He needs to be Josh Ho-Sang.
Yeah.
He needs to be himself, love the game. And I think that is, you know, Adam, what you said about every other level, that's the key. Do what Josh did. Grow up, sure, be a better human being. You don't have to worry about everything else. You have to worry about growing up, developing. You know, if any kid that's 16 that you think is an adult and mature, they have a lot more adulting and maturing to go. So you know, learning from Josh is a great example, because we'd all be lucky enough to only have his problems, to only be immature, to only need to grow up a little and work hard to get through some adversity and some struggles. And he did it. He's doing his dream. His dream, he said this to me multiple times, his dream is to be playing hockey and loving hockey and doing it for his career. and he's doing that. You know, for a while it was to get to the NHL, and of course he wants to get to the NHL. But we all need to find our own path. It doesn't have to be the one path, one goal, one dream. Like, so, you know, a young player that's trying to find their way, that's not getting it, you know, their coach isn't putting them on the power play, or the junior teams aren't paying attention, or the colleges aren't offering a commitment. Trust your process. Let go. Play the game. Follow what your coach says. Follow what your advisor says. Follow what your parents say, and focus on getting better. Everybody else is still going to be doing their nonsense. There's still going to be colleges looking. There's still going to be coaches looking. When they're ready to take you is when you'll be taken. Unless you've got $100,000 that you're willing to pay somebody off, it's not going to happen. Where it'll just.
But if you do,
I won't be the one helping you with it. But it's my point is, if you want to do it the right way, you have to trust the process. And the people that do it the wrong way are never going to be successful with anything in their life.
I like it, Patty. It's awesome. I really do. It's amazing.
So you're trying to gas me up here, I guess?
No, that was really good.
You're amazing. You're great.
That was really good.
Yeah, it was. That's great stuff.
And what
great
else
advice for everyone.
Else?
I just want to emphasize, like, it's so hard for this, because like the peak window of when we're looking at these players to figure out what they're going to be is when their brain isn't even fully developed yet. And if my life was under the microscope when I was 16 to 21, like, no one would have given me a shot. It would have just been an absolute disaster, just like Chad. Like,
100%.
It is what it is. Like the expectation that we have on these kids to be like, grown men and to make life adult choices and to come out on the other side and be successful is just crazy. And I think it's having Pat, guys like you in the corner, like just, hey, it's okay, trust the process.
He's my psychologist. He's my psychiatrist.
That's a thing.
Like,
that's exactly what I was getting to. Like, your job isn't just legal representation and player agent. Like, you're
if he could prescribe me
dad.
Xanax, I'm pretty sure he would have sent me a couple bottles already. Like,
calming expectations.
Maybe just this weekend.
Oh,
Like I think I'm very. That is a very nice compliment for me. I mean, everything you guys are all saying, but like my goal in all of this is to be able to help people the way that I prefer to help them. It's a little bit of a selfish way. I could be going and doing things. No, but like I could be doing it in all these other ways, getting people out of jail, whatever the hell it is.
Yeah.
I love sports. I'm drawn to athletes and the world of the athlete world, and like the reason why I've always gotten along with people is I've always wanted to help them. The people that I've been we talked about like happening upon people. I trust the universe. Like, why the first group of people was somebody that was also talked bad about publicly in the hockey world, viewed him as a problem. And I remember like we got along so well, and I remember writing an article and putting it out into the public about the real player's name. It's been like this my entire life. Like I'm drawn to trying to help and if Josh, I never thought about it like that. Like I literally always thought I would just, we got along so well, but there's something, the universe has purposes with everything that we do. There's a reason why I live on Long Island and I've known Russian and Canadian and NHL prospect. That doesn't just happen. There's
like I said, you're a stalker. I thought that was it.
Don't give me that one. It's I mean, like it's I think that there's things out there that like, and a Belarusian player that I just find a player in the second league in Belarus, and he's an amazing player, and NHL teams are like, what is that?
You found Logan. I found Logan. We wouldn't be talking today. Like if
Logan is a player that the process of me finding players is a little bit of my scouting and a lot more of my gut. Like, and I know it doesn't make sense. You talk to scouts and you talk to coaches and you give them your reasons. I watch a player, I know what I like about a player, and then I listen to what my gut says on them. A player like Logan, he's gone through the journey. We're only in the beginning part of the journey, but you get drafted in this league, you get drafted in that league. You think you're going there, you think you're going here. There's so much time. There's so many steps. There's so many journeys that are in. It's like a war. You have battles within the war. You just need to keep focusing on the next battle. And then, the ultimate war is to, do what you want in the sport. And that doesn't mean playing in the NHL. That means being successful. That means playing college, playing major junior, playing pro. If a player plays in the, and I'm going on a soapbox rant and I apologize. If a player plays one game in the ECHL, one game in the East Coast League, they consider their hockey career a success. Yeah. You played in the coast. You played at a level that is AA. Whether people want to knock it or whatever, it's AA for the National Hockey League. Yeah. It's an affiliated league. You're being paid to play there. Anything above that is American League. You're one of the best. If you play in the show, you are.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Love it. Last one for you. Crowning achievement so far. Do you have one?
The process with Josh, I think that's been a huge one. just because I mean, how intertwined it's been with he's my best friend, and yeah,
It's awesome.
I'm not shy about that. Like at the beginning, I was a little ashamed. I was a little like, I only got to be his agent because I was his best friend, and he said something to me that he said, it's not because you're my best friend that I made you my agent. Is because by being your best friend, I saw how good you would be as my agent, and
That's cool.
that's we've done that. I've helped him wherever we're at right now. It's a hell of a lot better than where he was, and I'd like to think I played a small part in
You
that.
definitely have.
Yeah, you have.
You definitely have. And I mean, I would, if I was going to guess what I thought your crowning achievement would be, I thought it would be getting your NHLPA license. That was going to be my guess, just because I know like how much work, and that was like to get that was that's not easy.
Well, it was my life dream, but you know what? I realized pretty soon after that how same as anything else. Like that's like a player's college commitment or a player's.
Yeah. Now the real work begins, right?
Now the real work begins, and you know what? Like how superficial of a life goal. Like
I don't know. It's still neat.
But it's neat. But the real cool thing, Chad, we're like family now.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, 100%. Like yeah, you're my family. You are my family.
We're family. Like I look at other players I work with that are like family. Like
Yeah.
I've got family in Belarus. I got family in Latvia, England, Sweden, Canada. That right there.
It's awesome.
Screw everything else. That's like the coolest thing. It's like I have family and people that I'm close to because of my job and what I do and how I help them all across the world. I feel like I'm making an impact, and I
Incredible.
I'm improving people's lives. Which it's like being I'm not comparing myself to a medical doctor, but it's like my way of being able to help the world be a little bit of a better place.
It's incredible. It's really good. I mean, I guess we can wrap up. Do you guys have anything else? Any other questions? Anything?
Keith, did you want to touch on your question about the timing for next season? I know we were talking about it.
Oh yeah, that was a good question. Before we get out of here, if you want, just a little note to the younger guys.
Yeah. So this time of year, it's mid-January, and it always seemed, it didn't matter what level you're playing at, right? Like even if you're, squirt AA travel hockey, as soon as Christmas and New Year comes around, everyone starts getting tight-lipped and secretive about what they're doing for next year or how they're preparing for next year. And I assume that's probably no different than, when you're talking about the more elite levels. But I guess like, what's your advice to families as they're entering this time of year and trying to figure out only halfway through the season what our goals are for next year and how we're going to get there?
Relax, take a breath, calm down. I think that's my advice, is to just stay calm. Nothing's burning. The house is still going to be there. Like, I think the most important thing to realize is that you lose your spot because you're 2 weeks late or because this person spoken before you spoke to them or whatever, then that was not a spot you should have been going to.
Yeah.
Like
right.
you need to find a place that really wants you.
Yeah.
Your child, whomever, playing there. They know how good your child is. They want them involved. That will not change by a daily, like, oh, you made a call quicker than the other person. No. Like, so you just got to stay calm with it all. I've seen so many players, a call, I can count on, I've been doing this on my own for 3 years now. Not that long, but each year I've seen at least 2 players find a spot after April, May-ish. So one figured it out in August. Like, because if a team like his team really wanted him,
if they want you, they'll find you.
They want you, they'll find you. This is the same way with the hockey world is small. They know, and I'm sorry, if you have to beg for a player to be on a team,
You probably should.
probably not good enough to be on the team. And that's okay. That's all right. It's all
But there
right
is a
if you're
team
not-
that's good
I
and
do
that you
now,
can be
Patty,
good.
I do want to distinguish though, right? Going back to the beginning, that doesn't mean you shouldn't send the email. It doesn't mean you shouldn't reach out. It doesn't mean you shouldn't, right? Whatever the case may be.
always reach out.
It doesn't mean you shouldn't reach out to them.
Always reach out.
And say, I.
The worst thing I can say is no.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like, I think, but that's, you can't get bent out of shape
Yes.
if it doesn't work. Like, if it works, you swing for the fences. But if it doesn't work, you can't. I think the thing that I'm speaking about more is everybody gets so upset and so jealous and angry and freaked out. Like, this is supposed to be a good thing. You're playing hockey. Let your kid play hockey. The places that want them will find them. Do your work. Speak to the people you want to speak to. Send that email. That's fine. But if Johnny over here gets the spot over your Jack, like, doesn't mean you have to freak out. There's going to be a spot that's available. That your kid's going to take advantage of the spot that he's in. If he's too good for a spot, and that's where you end up, hypothetically, you're too good. I promise people will see that your kid's good. You know, the kid from Belarus I will never stop using him as an example because he was playing in the second league in Belarus. No one knew who he was. But people, once they saw it, they'll find it. They found the talent. They took advantage of the talent. Now he's everywhere that you could want to be. So if someone who's there can get found, then your kid that's doing the right things will get found too. And wherever that found is meant to be, you know, if that means playing NA3 next year, that means playing U18 next year, that means playing in the NAL or the USHL or whatever. Like, great. But you're not going to get so, like, if your kid deserves to play in the USHL, they won't end up playing in a league that's way below that. I don't want to name
in the USPHL league or whatever, something crazy like that, or the EHL.
You can say
right?
it. I don't want to.
I don't. Oh Jesus, really?
So there's so if you end up like that, won't happen.
Right.
Yes, maybe there'll be a situation where a team in the NAL, you know, something doesn't work out there, but you get an opportunity in another league that's comparable. That may happen, but it's not going to be like you were going to play in the NHL, but because this guy didn't look, you're now playing.
I think
somewhere far.
I feel like some of the crazy parts, and before we go, we'll just talk about this. Some of the crazy social media parts with kids at this day and age is when they sign their letter of intent. Well, maybe letter of intent's a little bit different, or they're tendered in the null. I mean, I know 3 or 4 kids this year that were tendered in the null that either don't play for the team they were tendered for or play in a different league altogether.
Yes,
which is
plenty.
It's a whole nother thing where people are, you know, it's kind of, that's, I don't want to say it's smoke and mirrors because it's not always the case, but it's a, you know, especially because the null, their feeder teams are their other teams. So a lot of times their tenders come out of their feeder teams, which is fine. It's just really interesting how that works, especially in that league. I think I feel like I've seen
there's a lot of moving parts, and there's usually a lot more to it. And you know, it's, you don't want to say that it's useless because it's not. There's a lot of players that play, but because you weren't tendered doesn't mean that you can't earn your way onto a team and be ending up on a team or being drafted by a team or whatever it may be.
And just because you
get tendered doesn't mean you're going to be on the team.
I was going to say.
Only doesn't matter in the USHL actually. If it's your draft,
USHL is the only one that matters. That's
a
great thing.
Different...
You're tendered in the USHL. It's amazing.
Yeah, that's a whole different thing. But all right, we'll let you get out of here, Patty. It's getting late. I just want to say thank you, and not just thank you for doing this. Thank you for doing everything you do for Logan. Thanks for being my sports psychologist, psychiatrist. Everything. Thanks for listening to my crazy ass when I go down some rants.
You're good. Don't worry about it.
I still feel like I'm psycho, and Vinny looks at Vin's face is like that because he knows I am.
Yep.
Kiefer just already knows too. So, yeah, everyone.
So
But man,
everyone
I
feels bad for Patty,
over.
apparently.
It's funny because you said, you've been doing this kind of on your own for 3 years. Well, I think Logan is one of the first people that was with you kind of when this all started. And you've literally, like you said, become part of our family. And I appreciate you every day. I tell you that probably every other day, or at least I try to, and I probably don't say it enough either way. But thank you. And I love you.
I love you too. And it's a blessing. Like, that's literally, this is the only thing that matters to me. It's like that we're able to, without this, I would have never met you guys.
100%.
We wouldn't be having this conversation. And Logan's going to do some great things in life, more importantly than anything else in life.
Absolutely.
And it's my honor to be a part of it. It's my honor to be a part of you guys' family.
Well, we love you.
Love you too.
Anybody else got anything?
No, thank you, Patty. Appreciate everything.
Thank you very much.
Of course.
You don't have to hang up when we end, but
All right.
we tell everybody that. We tell everybody that, and then they hang up anyways.
Episode 8 out.